Good morning. Please state and spell your name for us.
Good morning. My name is Jessamy Torres, spelled Jessamy. Torres is Torres.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm a lieutenant with the Dane County Sheriff's Office.
Could you tell us what the role of a lieutenant is, and perhaps in contrast to, we've already heard from maybe some deputies and some detectives. What is a lieutenant?
So a lieutenant is a supervisor over the deputies, detectives, sergeants, and in my opinion, my role as a supervisor is to assist the people that are doing the job, help them in any way that I can to do the best job that they can under those circumstances.
In early July of last year, were you asked to kind of perform in that role as a lieutenant regarding a few days of a search of the Irwin Road property here in Dane County?
Yes, I was.
And was that in relation to the homicides of Bart and Krista Halderson?
Yes.
Okay. What was your role as one of these people out there who is maybe higher ranking? What was your role on the property?
Well, so I was out there 2 different days, and my role was just kind of to be the overall supervisor of the scene. Both days that I was present at the Irwin Road property, I primarily interacted with the property owners. They were very distraught and emotional. So I spent a lot of the majority of my time talking with them and trying to keep them calm so that the detectives and the deputies on scene could do their jobs. So
while we're going to hear probably a lot today from people who found things on the property, you weren't one of those people out physically digging through things most of the time? Most of the time, correct. Okay. What days, first of all, let's start with, I think Detective Baverstock testified that the torso was found on the 8th. How long was the property kept, and when was it finally released back to Cress as out of the custody of the Dane County Sheriff's Department? So we turned the property back over to Cress on Monday, July 12th. Okay, so it was the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, and the 12th. At some points those days, the Sheriff's Department was out there from the finding of the torso to the release. It was within your purview or within your custody? Yes. Okay. And the property itself, could you describe the general property for us? I think the jury's seen pictures, but what was your view of the property? So it was a rural property. There was a main residential building. There was an outbuilding, which would be best described as a large barn. There was a smaller outbuilding that held chickens. And then the property consisted of acreage, I would estimate, I don't know the exact number, but maybe 30 to 35 acres of varying topographical design. There was a large field with overgrowth that was maybe 12, 15 acres, and then surrounding that was wooded property. And if we look at this map, which has been admitted into evidence as exhibit number 57, when you talk about the field that was overgrowth, are you talking about this part of the image that's on the right side? Yes. Okay. Sorry, yes. I think you said you were out there for 2 days. Were there 2 main days of searches after the initial finding of things, the day of the torso and the garbage bin and things of that sort on the 8th? I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Sure. After the torso and the garbage bin were found by Detective Baverstock on the 8th, were there 2 primary days of searching that occurred after that you were involved in? Yes, 2 days that I was involved in. Saturday, July 10th in the morning, and then Monday, July 12th in the morning. And could you give us let's start with, I suppose, just because we talked about it, the field. Was that field searched, that grassy field? How did we go about doing that? Sorry. Yeah. Well, can I ask when this picture was taken? Sure. This was, and those are law enforcement vehicles out there, so sometime later, but while law enforcement was out there. So the one field, I had actually spoke with Cress about it. She was letting it grow natural to try and bring back bee populations. So there was a large portion that had, I would say, need to waist-high natural growth. There was some small shrubberies, there was thorns, there was tall grass. So on Saturday, July 10th was when we did a line search of that area. And what do you mean by a line search?
So everyone that was there to assist that day, we briefed ahead of time out in the field near this barn. And then what we did was we lined up. We tried to maintain an equal distance amongst each officer, not too far, but not too close. And then we just systematically started at one end and walked in a line down till we got to the other end. If anyone saw anything that was of interest, they would say stop, and we'd all stop. If the line ever kind of got off canter where one side was, we would stop and reline up. And so we'd keep walking till we got to the end, kind of turn the line, rotate the line around where the last person was, and go back up.
Based on what you know or any of your knowledge, was anything of evidentiary value found in that big field?
No.
Going to maybe more the wooded portion, were the woods searched to the extent you could?
Yes, it was my understanding that the woods had been searched prior, that there had been detectives that had gone through there. But we also did, as we searched the field part, we also made our line kind of overlap with the wooded part, and it was common to, when we would turn, overlap, have someone overlap the last where that end person had gone to make sure that we aren't potentially missing anything.
Okay. And absent what Detective Baberstock and the other detectives have maybe talked about finding the first day on the 8th, was anything found in the woods in your line search?
No, not on the day that I was there.
Okay. Now, there was a residence, a house on this property, correct?
Yes, sir.
Was that home searched at some point?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So that home was also searched on Monday, July 12th.
And the homeowner, was the homeowner there, Kress?
Yes, Kress was.
Okay. And was anything of evidentiary value related ultimately to the case found in the house?
No items of evidence were collected other than photographic evidence.
Sure. The driveway leading all the way through, I know it looked like a long, windy driveway down to the road. Was that area in general searched?
Yes, that would have been on Saturday, the 10th, when we did the land and the property search. We also covered the land all the way down to the road, and we even walked along the roadway.
And I think we'll hear from that deputy later, but it'd be fair to say something of evidentiary value was found in that driveway up to the road search, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now there's a shed, a barn on this property. Was that barn searched?
Yes, it was.
Can you tell me, based on what you know, how many folks were searching it and maybe how they go about something like that?
So on Monday, July 12th, there was 6, myself, and then 6 deputies, well, 2 deputies and 4 detectives. So we briefed ahead of time, and the way that barn was searched was all 6 went in. I was in and out, asking if there's anything I could do to help or assist, but then also back at the residence with Kress. But the way the search was completed, as any search that I've been involved with, everyone coordinates and talks amongst themselves, and we'll start in an area and communicate with their partners. I'll start here, you start here, we'll meet in the middle, and they just kind of systematically go through the building, doing their best to cover searching every area that they can.
Can you describe this barn?
Yes, it was a large barn. I don't know the exact dimensions, but I would say it could probably have fit in maybe 12 cars. Inside the barn, there was a SUV parked. There were 2 tractors, the ones that have kind of a single-seat tractor, farm tractor. There was also a workbench area. There was a lot of tools. In the center of the barn, there was piled high, various boxes and Tupperware containers, not Tupperware, what's the word I'm looking for? The plastic boxes like you put your decorations in. And then there was also some high shelving along that had things stored there. A lot of old dusty tools. Okay.
And I think you mentioned that, the property released back to Kress on the 12th?
Yes.
When you left on the 12th, were you comfortable with the property had been searched at that time and giving it back to the homeowner?
Yes, I was comfortable that we'd done the best that we could, and had there been any question about, for me, whether we should stay longer, I would have told Kress we're going to stay longer.
Sure. At that stage in the investigation, were there other areas that needed to be searched by maybe even some of the same sheriff's deputies that were there?
Yes.
Just in general, what types of areas were you aware of that ultimately had to be searched?
My understanding, in addition to that property on Early Wind, there was the primary residence, there was some wooded DNR land, there was waterways, and then there was also a large landfill.
Sure. Were you later made aware, a couple months after your search, that the homeowner found a rifle in that barn?
Yes, I was.
And possible you missed it in the original search?
Yes.
Okay. Any explanation, or what could you say about that?
What I could say about that is that I'm confident that the detectives and the deputies I was supervising that day were doing the best they could. It was a vast property. There was a lot of items in there, and if it was missed during our search, it was oversight or human error.
Sure. Sometimes searches aren't 100% effective.
I say we always do the best we can, but it would be naive to say we get 100% every time. You know, we try our best.
Sure. No further questions?
Cross-examination.
Yes, thank you. Lieutenant Torres, from July 8th to July 12th, I believe that's when you said that the property was under your custody or Dane County Sheriff's custody. Is that correct?
To the best of my understanding, I wasn't there when the scene was initiated. So my only involvement with the case was on the July 10th and July 12th.
As your role as lieutenant, would you be able to know if the property was under, well, let me backtrack. So we learned earlier last week that during the search of the Oak Springs location, there was constantly someone from law enforcement that was guarding that location. Are you aware if that same thing happened here in the Erwin location?
I'm not familiar with the location that you just referenced, but what I can say is the Erwin location, from when the official word was that we were guarding it as a crime scene, we staffed a deputy there 24/7.
So it was constantly being looked at from the time you determined it was a crime scene to the time you released it on the 12th?
Yes, I can say we constantly had a deputy there.
Okay. And your role in lieutenant, if something was found, something of evidentiary value was found in that location, were you informed of that?
At that time?
Yes.
Yes. The only item of evidentiary value that was collected either of the 2 days would have been on Saturday, the 10th, by Detective Dan Feeney.
Okay. Now, drawing your attention to the search of the barn, it's been called a barn or a shed. You said you were there that day, correct?
I was, yes.
Approximately how many hours were devoted to searching this barn?
I can't say for certain how many hours we were in the barn, but we arrived at that property probably about 8 a.m. And I believe the time that we all left, that the last law enforcement left, was about 11:30.
So 8 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. or p.m.?
A.m.
Okay. And could you describe a little bit more about how the search in the barn was conducted? You told us earlier about a line search and kind of gave us a detailed explanation on how that was conducted. Could you do something like that for the search of the barn?
Sure. So whenever deputies and detectives have to search a big building like that, they coordinate amongst themselves and they walk in and they communicate with each other. I'll start here, you start there, we'll meet in the middle, for example. So under that day, again, I was in and out, so I wasn't directly watching everyone that was searching the entire time. But I do know, and I did observe the deputies and detectives communicating in that typical way of, I've searched this area, okay, now this is the area we have to do next, and moving through the building like that.
And then did you feel like a thorough search of that barn was conducted that day?
At that day and that time, I felt as though we had done the best that we could to find evidence.
So then later that day on the 12th was when the property was released back to the property owner, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And nothing of evidentiary value was located in that property until later in October, I believe, correct?
That's my understanding, but I was not involved in the case after July 12th.
Okay. I have no further questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Any
One moment, Judge.
Sure. Sounds good.
Nothing further. The witness will be released but remaining under subpoena.
Oh, so you're excused, but you remain under
Yes.
subpoena and are not released yet from your subpoena, so don't talk about the case, but you are free to go, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you,
today.
Your Honor.
Thank you.
Good morning. Could you please state your name for the record, spelling both your first and last names?
Deputy Erik Schneider, E-R-I-K-S-C-H-N-E-I-D-E-R.
How are you employed?
I'm employed with the Dane County Sheriff's Office as a patrol deputy out of the Southeast Precinct and a member of the Dane County Sheriff's Office Crime Scene Unit.
Tell me about that. What does that mean, that you're a member of the Dane County Sheriff's Crime Scene Unit?
My full-time position is patrol, but we also have some people that assist the two primary crime scene unit deputies, Greg Leatherberry and Jim Plenty. So if they are unavailable or there's a particularly large or complicated scene, I will come out and I will work with them.
Have you gone through any training to become part of the crime scene unit?
I have.
Can you just briefly describe that for the jury?
There's a state crime lab evidence school that I attended, a 5-day, week-long school. There's an additional state lab photography course. I've done additional training, a buried body course that we put on ourselves. Off the top of my head, that's additional training.
And as part of that training, learning how to collect items of evidence in a way that is both safe but also preserves the evidence?
Yes.
All right, I think I will ask you a little bit about that individually. I'm now going to approach you with some photos, exhibit 144 through 157. In this case in particular, one of the ways in which you worked as a crime scene unit deputy was at the Irwin property?
Yes.
Okay. Could you just briefly look through exhibits 144 through 157? And as a group, would you describe exhibits 144 through 157 as photographs of the Irwin Road property during the search?
Yes.
Or at least some of them?
Yes.
There's many more. Do they appear to be true and accurate photographs?
Yes.
I would move 144 through 157 into evidence at this time.
No objection.
Thank you. They are received.
And I will leave them up here in case you need to reference them, but what I'm going to play on the screen will also show up on your little screen. Okay. So how would you describe exhibit 108 on your screen? Oh, I'm sorry, Judge.
Now, the property in question had a large barn or a shed. The immediate area around it was mowed, and beyond that was a large area of like prairie and a wood line. This is a section of the mowed grass butting up against that prairie to the south of the barn.
And do you see an oil drum in that photograph?
Yes.
How would you describe exhibit 109?
There was a cut, like you see there, an odd-shaped cut on the north side of that oil drum, and inside were some items.
And 110 shows some of those items inside?
Yes, a saw blade, a scissors, and a smaller saw with like a chrome or a metal handle. And a bolt cutters.
All right, and that's 112.
Or shears, yes.
All right, how did you package these various items? So let's start first with 139, which is the pruning shears. How did you collect and package them?
So at that time, I had CSI Greg Leatherberry with me. He made a determination we were going to remove the items, and it just so happened that my arm span was long enough that I could reach them because they were deep inside the oil drum. So just using regular nitrile evidence gloves, I reached in, I was able to pull them out one at a time without touching areas that looked like they had stains. We laid them out on paper, and then CSI Leatherberry collected them in whatever packaging he used.
And why do you wear gloves?
To preserve the evidence, to keep it from either losing evidence or us from contaminating it.
And do you change your gloves in between touching different items?
Depending, yes.
And every time, well, I'm going to approach you now with Exhibit 139. These are the pruning shears. Yep. Okay. And Exhibit 139 has various stickers on it. Are some of those stickers, though, identification stickers from your office?
Yes.
And why is that done?
Anything that is taken and put into evidence will have a unique tag number cataloging it.
Okay. And this appears to have all the correct stickers.
It does.
I'm going to ask you to open Exhibit 139. There. So. And Deputy, you're going to write a report after testifying here today. Is that fair? Because you are opening up evidence?
Yes.
And why do you do that?
It's just to preserve the chain of custody.
So anytime anybody opens up a box or an envelope that has evidence tape on it, a report is written about that encounter with the evidence?
Yes.
Okay. There's also a little knife if you prefer that.
Would this be a good point for the stipulation on chain of custody?
Yes, that's fine.
As the deputy is opening this item of evidence, with regard to much of the physical evidence here, the parties have entered into a stipulation, which I'll read to you at this time. Once again, in this case, the district attorney and defendant's attorneys have stipulated to the following facts. Throughout the investigation into the deaths of Bart and Krista Halderson, many pieces of evidence were collected from the Halderson home, the Earlywine Road property, and the Roxbury, Wisconsin River land. These items of evidence were securely transported to various locations, including the medical examiner's office, the crime lab, to police evidence lockers, and ultimately to the courtroom. In some cases, there is a dispute that the evidence was not handled correctly, or that there is some dispute to the authenticity of the evidence. That is not the case here. The parties stipulate that there is no dispute to the chain of custody or authenticity of these items of evidence. The parties stipulate these items have remained in secure custody since being collected by police and have not been tampered with or altered in any way outside of the testing performed by the experts involved in this case. These items of evidence include the following. Number one, the human remains located at Earlywine Road and in the town of Roxbury. Number two, all items collected from the Earlywine Road property. Number 3, all items collected from the Halderson home in Windsor, Wisconsin. Number 4, all items of evidence tested by the Wisconsin State Crime Lab for DNA, fingerprints, footwear impressions, ballistics, and trace fit testing. And finally, number 5, all swabs of purported DNA and blood, including the DNA sample taken from Chandler Halderson and Mitchell Halderson. Go ahead.
Deputy, could you please describe Exhibit 139? You can unwrap it further if you need to.
Do you want me to remove it from the ties as well?
Why don't you just describe it first?
The item in question is the large pruning shears, I guess they are, with red paint on the handle.
And do those appear to be the same or in substantially the same condition as when you retrieved them from the Irwin Road property?
Yes.
At this time, I would move Exhibit 139 into evidence.
No objection.
It is received. It may be published.
All right. Are they connected to the box or just no? Okay. Deputy, why don't you pick those up out of the box? Watch your step, but walk them in front of the jury, please. All right. If you want to put them back in the box. This is 140. Okay, thank you. And Deputy, I'm now approaching you with what has been marked as Exhibit 140. Could you please open up Exhibit 140? How would you describe Exhibit 140?
Exhibit 140 is the smaller saw that we saw in the picture of the oil drum with the chrome-colored handle.
And is it in substantially the same condition as when you collected it?
Yes.
At this time, I would move Exhibit 140 into evidence.
No objection.
It is received.
And I would ask that you repeat the same procedure and show the jury.
It's still tied in. Would you like me to remove it all the way?
Yeah, if it's not too difficult.
Attorney Raymond, I wonder if we move the water pitcher, if it might give the deputy a little more room.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. And if you want to place that one back in the box, 140. And I'll give you a minute to change your gloves. Here's what we scan. Now I'm going to show you what has been marked as Exhibit 141. Could you please open up the box and tell us what 141 is?
Exhibit 141 is the broken saw blade from that oil drum that we saw in the picture.
And is it in the same or substantially the same condition as when you collected it?
Yes.
I would move Exhibit 141 into evidence at this time.
No objection.
It is received.
Okay. I think this one could probably stay in the box, but do you want to display that to the jury, please? If you want to close that box and change your gloves. I'm not going to change my gloves because I'm just handling the box. Could you please open Exhibit 142? And how would you describe Exhibit 142?
Exhibit 142 is the scissors with the red handle from inside the drum.
Are they in the same or substantially the same condition as when you collected them?
They are.
I would ask to move 142 into evidence at this time.
No objection.
It is received.
And again, will you display for the jury? That's the last piece of physical evidence for the moment. If you just want to remove your gloves, that would be fine. Deputy, did you participate at any point in the search of the barn or shed, as it's been called, on the Irwin Road property?
Yes.
And would you describe Exhibit 144 as displayed on your screen?
Exhibit 144 is the large barn or shed in question that you're talking about.
And Exhibit 145, what does it display?
A portion of the interior of the barn.
There's lots of stuff in the barn.
There is a lot of stuff in the barn.
Exhibit 146, what does 146 display?
146 is probably the eastern portion of the barn. The two entrances face north-south to the barn. So if you're coming in from the north, which faces the house, to your left would be this area.
And 147, what does that display?
147 is a silver gray colored tarp that was located, I believe the night of the 8th, when the first night we were at the property.
So that was the night that the torso was discovered?
Correct.
And is it fair to say this was found during like a cursory search of the barn?
Yes, while we were waiting for the search warrant to be finalized, we had the medical examiner's office out there, and the director, Ehrman, had his canine. So while we were waiting, we thought we would utilize the canine while we had it to see if it could find anything, and it led us directly to that tarp.
And of course, at this point, Crest had given you folks permission to be on their property and search. All right. 148, what does that display?
That is the same tarp after we removed it from where we located it.
Let me just go back and ask you one question. The dog that medical director Ehrman had, was that a cadaver canine dog?
I believe his is, yes.
149, what is displayed on Exhibit 149?
The same tarp, just from a different angle. You can see the beginning of some red staining there.
Okay. 150?
We're starting to slowly unfold it. And again, more red staining. So I think at that point or shortly thereafter, we stop because we believe it has evidentiary value and wouldn't want to ruin it or contaminate it on scene. So
why did you stop?
That should be something that's processed in a more controlled environment. We had a lot going on there, so we weren't going to unravel that in the middle of a dirt floor and begin processing it there. That's something that'll be done later in a lab.
Sure, so it was sent to the Wisconsin State Crime Lab?
I believe that one was.
Okay. All right. It's not opening it, correct? Yep, okay. And I'm actually just gonna touch the bag, so. Deputy, I'm gonna show you what has been marked as Exhibit 143. There are various stickers. Are there stickers on Exhibit 143 from your office?
Yes.
And do any of those stickers tell you what is inside of Exhibit 143?
Yes.
Okay, and do those all appear to be in order?
They do.
At this time, I would move Exhibit 143 into evidence.
No objection.
It is received.
And we are not going to open 143 at this time. I will put it over here, though. And Deputy, were you made aware in October of 2021 that after the Sheriff's Office had finished their
side of the barn, there's a large trailer, and around it you can just see all kinds of various items and clutter.
153?
That'd be the northwest corner of the barn. A large number of tools and old saw blades and that kind of stuff.
As a member of the crime scene unit, do buildings with this amount of material in it pose any obstacles in doing a search?
They do, particularly at this time. Our resources were at a premium, as we had a primary crime scene now at the scene of the residence in Windsor.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 154. Could you just briefly describe 154?
An overall shot of the size and interior of the barn.
155?
From that same corner, facing south across, you can see there's a second tractor behind that one and a vehicle near the entrance of the barn.
156?
More views are taken from across the other side inside the barn, just detailing rows of objects and items.
157?
A view looking north from the south entrance, looking back, and you can see the second trailer more clearly. And just a lot of piles of wood and debris.
Exhibit 70.
This was taken in October after the owner had been clearing out the barn. Objects were removed, and you can see there is now a black rifle propped up.
Of middle. Exhibit 71.
Just a closer view of the rifle.
And that rifle, is it your understanding that that rifle was found behind some boards?
Yes.
172? Or I'm sorry, 72.
Just another closer view of the rifle. I just took overall and photographs and continuing all the way up to the rifle itself.
And what is picture 73 a picture of?
A close-up of the rifle, which shows the serial number on the upper portion.
If you want to glove up. Okay, got it. Thank you. Deputy, I'm going to show you what has been marked as Exhibit 291. This end is much heavier. I would ask at this time that you open Exhibit 291 for yourself and view what is inside.
As this process is going on, I'll just let the jury know that obviously Randy is becoming involved in this part. He's responsible for the security of this room, so anytime, whether for evidentiary purposes or not, there's a firearm brought into this space, he takes a keen interest and role in that for everyone's safety and security.
And Deputy, could you just tell me what Exhibit 291 is?
This is that same, same black rifle we saw in the photographs.
That you collected at the Irwin Road property hidden behind a board?
Correct. It is a Norinco SKS 76 by 39 caliber rifle.
And is it in the same or substantially same condition as when you collected it?
Yes, it has a red dot sight and a camouflage colored strap on it.
I would move Exhibit 291 into evidence at this time.
No
Any
objection.
No objection. That is received.
And we'll give Randy a minute to secure it.
Thank you, Randy.
Deputy, if you would take Exhibit 291 out of the box and display it carefully for the jury. Thank you. If you want to put it back in the box. Randy, did you want to take ownership of it, or? Yeah. Okay. The scissors. Because the tape is undone, the box is not perfectly closed. Deputy, did you attend the autopsy of Mr. Halderson's torso?
I did.
And that occurred at the medical examiner's office?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as Exhibit 553 and 554. I'm not going to ask you to remove these from the boxes or anything, but based on the markings that are on 553 and 554, could you please identify them?
Item 553 is a jacket and fragment that was retrieved from the rear neck area of the torso. And item 554 is additional fragments from a bullet retrieved from the abdomen.
And those were retrieved from the torso by the medical examiner during the autopsy?
Correct.
I would move Exhibits 553 and 554 into evidence at this time.
No objection.
They are received.
No further questions.
Cross-examination.
Thank you. Good morning, Deputy.
Good morning.
Now, you, just so I'm clear, you searched this barn or shed at the Irwin address a couple of times?
There was an official search on the 12th that some detectives did, yes.
And there was a cursory search the night of the finding of the torso?
I wouldn't even call it a search, but yeah, like a walk around, and the canine went through it.
Were you there for both of these events?
Yes.
Did you participate in the search? And I understand the first one may not have been technically the kind of search we're talking about, but did you participate both times in looking for things in that shed?
I documented the search by photographing it. I did not search per se myself.
Now, the first time, how many people were looking around that barn?
You're talking the first night on the 8th?
Yes.
4 of us, I believe.
And the second time, how many people were looking around that barn?
Without looking at the log, I don't recall who was all there, maybe 6.
And each time before looking or before searching, is it fair to say that discussions were had and a plan was made as to how to do the search and what things in particular would be notable?
Yes.
So for example, you might want to say, let's look for footprints or shoe impressions, correct?
As an example.
In this case, you knew about the torso with the gunshots before the second search, correct?
Yes.
So is it fair to say that one strategy for the search would be to look for any firearms, correct?
Yes.
Now, I heard you say that resources were at a premium around the time of the second search. Did I get that correct?
Yes.
The sheriff's department, or you in particular, between that moment when resources were at a premium and October, when this firearm was found in the barn, you didn't go back to search further, correct?
I did not. I can't tell you if there were additional searches.
There's no sheriff's department rules or protocol that would prevent anyone from going back and searching again, correct?
Well, we would, I mean, if we were going to do that, we would either need the permission of the homeowner or an additional search warrant. Given the circumstances, we would procure another warrant anyway.
And you obtained both of those the first time, right?
When I was there, yes.
Now, you took possession of the firearm, the SKS that was found in that barn, correct?
Yes.
So you physically lifted it up from its location, is that right?
Yes.
Are you familiar with something called a flash suppressor?
No.
That's all I have, thank you.
Any redirect?
No.
May this witness be excused
Yes.
and released?
No.
All right, you're excused from testifying further today, sir. Thank you very much. Have a good remainder of your day. And the next witness, please.
Stickles Dan Feeney. Good morning. Please state and spell your name for us.
My name is Dan Feeney, Dan, D-A-N, Feeney, F-E-E-N-E-Y.
What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm a detective with the Dane County Sheriff's Office
How long have you been in that role?
since May of 2021.
Early part of July 2021, were you asked to assist in the search of the Irwin Road property in reference to the homicides of Bart Halderson and Krista Haldersons?
Yes, I was.
And what was your role in this search?
My role is searching the grounds on the Irwin Road property on foot.
Particularly at some point were you asked to search maybe the driveway leading down to the road, that area?
Yes.
I'm going to show, and did you find anything of evidentiary interest in this case?
Yes, I found some items in the garbage can.
All right, I'm showing you what's been marked. In this case is exhibits number 158 through 167. Could you page through those real quick and just let me know when you're done, in general, what they are?
These are the items that were located in the garbage can at the Irwin Road address.
And what were those items that were of interest to you?
It was a grocery-style plastic bag containing some cleaning material. I believe it was white rags, as well as two Brillo pads inside of it.
Okay. And did you collect these items?
I did.
I think I've already moved all but 2 of them, but I'll move 158 through 167 into evidence and ask to publish them.
No objection.
They are received. They may be published. They should appear on the computer monitor directly in front of you, sir.
Starting with exhibit number 158, what are we looking at there?
You're looking at the garbage cans at the start of the driveway with the target bag located inside the garbage can in front of it.
And that target bag was, it's removed there. Was it in that location when you found it?
It was inside the garbage can to the right with the black lid.
And exhibit 159, is that garbage can?
Yes.
When you found, go back to 158, when you found 158, was it the only item that was in that garbage can?
Yes, it was.
160, what are we looking at there?
The bag was previously tied off, so we had opened it up to observe what was inside of the bag.
161, what is that?
That is the sticker that was on the outside of the target bag that has Melender, C as the owner, or excuse me, the person that would have picked up the property from Target. And I know from the investigation, it's potentially Catherine Melender.
162, what are we looking at there?
This is the garbage bag, or the plastic bag inside of the target bag containing the white rags and Brillo pads.
Sure. There's a red substance there that we can see?
Yes.
What did that appear to be to you?
There was a large amount of red and brownish substance, which through my training experience I recognized as potentially dried blood.
163, what am I looking at?
Looking at the rags again with one of the Brillo pads.
Can you say Brillo pad kind of in the exact center where I'm pointing the laser up on the big screen? That's the Brillo pad?
Yes, sir.
Were those Brillo pads themselves stained or were they new?
No, they were used. They also had the similar brown reddish staining on it as the rags did in the bag.
164, what are we looking at there?
Just the target bag that was the exterior bag with the rags located in.
Couple views of that, 165.
Same thing, yep.
166.
Interior of the bag.
167.
Interior as well.
When you collected these items, did they have any sort of smell to them?
Yes. Right when I opened up the bag, it was an immediate smell of what I describe as cleaning material. The closest thing that came to my mind was like rubbing alcohol. And then it was just overtaken by a rancid, putrid smell.
Thank you. No further questions.
Cross-examination.
Good morning, Deputy.
Morning.
As part of your role in this investigation at that Irwin Road location, you did canvass the area, correct?
I did.
Going from home to home, seeing if anyone had, for example, ring or surveillance video, correct?
I did, yes.
And just generally talking to people to see if they saw anything that might be helpful, correct?
Yes.
That's all, thank you.
Any redirect?
It's a pretty rural area.
Yeah, it's very rural, yes.
Were there any direct next door neighbors right across the street from the driveway?
No, slightly down the roadway.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
May this witness be excused?
Just excused, yes.
You may be excused from further testifying today, sir. Thank you.